All right, my man. We're live. What's up, everybody? Coach Colby coming at you, just bombarding your news feeds with positive, motivating stories of behavior change, of fitness, of people getting in awesome shape. Today, I want to introduce you guys to a really close friend of mine and client, obviously. His name's Patrick Larson. Pat, how are you, sir?
I am great.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time. Much like many of my clients, you are a husband, a father, a employee. You got a lot on your plate. So graciously, thank you so much for jumping on. So what I want to do today is focus the conversation around your experience in coaching and more specifically kind of the major benefit that you got, which was focusing in on changing your eating habits and reaching the point where you've dropped 20 pounds and we're still working together and counting. I believe we have another 15 to go to reach, 15, 25, maybe 30 to go to reach your target. But anyways, man, let me turn this over to you. Before we even got started, flashback to the start of the Better Everyday Challenge. Tell me a little bit about your situation, your eating habits, your health, your exercise habits before you jumped into coaching.
They were bad, all of them. There was, to give a little history, I consider myself an athlete, and I played college baseball and was in good shape back then. And all of that kind of got away from me, and I got to a point where I knew I needed to do something. I honestly didn't know how to do it, which was, before we did this, I was thinking about it, and man, it was all that was ego, and I couldn't accept the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. I'd go to the gym with my wife, and she'd crush it, and then I would just kind of stand there on an elliptical for a few minutes and be like, oh, I don't even know what to do, just because I didn't really know where to start. And if when I did work out, then I was so sore afterwards that I didn't want to do it again for weeks. So I just needed to get back into it, and I needed help. So that's where
Yeah.
Which was hard. That was hard to admit, that I needed help. And so, although it was hard, I'm glad. It was the best thing to do.
He can come in, man. Bring him in, dude. He's all right. Yeah, man, that's cool. This is good, man. This is just, I think, really just illustrates that, like, there's so much to life. Hey, buddy, that's awesome. That's cool. So tell me a little bit about where you're at. Like, what was it that actually sparked you wanting to make some changes, and more specifically, work with somebody? Like, where did it come to for you, where you finally had the realization to make the decision that you're going to do this?
No, I mean, like I said before, in the back of my head, I knew I needed to, I wanted to. I didn't know where to start, and I was kind of afraid to ask. So how it all happened was I asked Kylie, I texted her one day. I was like, hey, can we go to the mountains this weekend and go skiing? I don't remember exactly what it was, but let's just say that's what it was. And she texted me back with, sure, if you'll fill out this questionnaire. And it was a questionnaire you had come up with for that group, I can't remember the name of it, but the group that you had done, about a year and a half ago. And she said, if you fill this out, we'll do whatever. And I was like, so I honestly thought, like, okay, I'll fill it out. And, I had no expectations, and I filled it out. And the reason it worked is because you immediately called me and were like, hey, I got your questionnaire. I'm like, oh, no, this is real. And that's what I needed. That's where I was at, where I needed someone, as in Kylie, to suggest, like, hey, here we go. And then I needed you to reach out and just make me feel okay with doing it. And that's a lot of it. Is I felt you just the way you handled it. But then we met in person, and I liked you, and it was good. And the kicker was, like, at the end of the meeting, we had an hour meeting. At the very end of it, you're like, okay, well, I'll see you here tomorrow at 5, right? I'm like, what? And that's the history. Is we've been doing it ever since, which I was kind of good because I didn't have time to think about it or worry about it. It was kind of go time, which worked out for me. So that's how it happened. I mean, and as far as the story goes, I knew I needed it. I just didn't know. Like I said, there was ego. I was afraid to kind of ask and admit to myself and others that I didn't really know where I needed to start, because I was just in a spot where I didn't know what to do. And which is strange since my wife is in the same profession you are and does sort of the same thing. She, that made it kind of, she could have helped, but it was, asking your wife for help was strange. So, it was just the fact that we hooked up at the right time. And you didn't let me off the hook. It wasn't like you were, demanding or anything. It was just like, hey, let's do this. And I needed it. And, so in the back of the head, I knew I needed to. So once that was set up, then I was good to go.
What were your eating habits like when you very first started working together?
I was eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and it was not good. I honestly didn't realize how bad I felt.
Until you started to feel better?
Correct. Until, I didn't realize how much that diet and all of that affected just my overall well-being and mental health too. It's and so people know I do have celiac, so I do have to be careful of gluten and all that, and I'm also supposed to be dairy free. So that was on top of it. I have a lot of restrictions, and it messes with your head. So you feel like you should be, well, I have all these restrictions, I should be able to eat this stuff. So if I ever found any gluten free, especially gluten free, dairy free treats, I would eat them all.
I love that candor. Yeah.
No, because I felt like I deserved it, and that's just something I had to change.
Mm-hmm. So, why did you choose me? Like, there are many other options out there, right? Like, you could have easily gone to 24-hour fitness and hired a trainer there. Could have, worked with your wife. Although I don't know, now that I say that, that probably would not be a good solution. I'm thinking of me working with my wife. That would be the end, right? I'm just curious, like, what was it that led you to not only start that program here in person, but continue?
So my thing is, I like you said at the very start, we're good friends now, and it was I don't know. I'd like to think we think the same. You had a lot of experiences that you brought up that related to me. We both you're younger than me, but we're both, same age-ish, and it just felt right. Plus, not just from Kylie, but other people too had said that, they knew you and you were a good dude, and you're from around here, and it was the right fit. And the main thing is, as we continued to work, a lot of it is results, but we just, like we said, we became friends, and it was, I don't feel like I'm doing this myself either. Is a lot of it is you're there with me, and I have a lot of support from my wife as well. But when you and I are working out together or just chatting, it's what I needed.
Yeah. Was there a moment, but before you decided to make this change, like what I'm trying to pull out, I've been doing a lot of these interviews, and it's been really cool for me to reflect on the process, right? Because I only see the here and now, and I'm looking ahead to the future. What was it really? What was the pain or the motivation that was driving you to make this change, right? Because it's not easy, right? We've had this conversation many times, right? Like, we slip up, we make mistakes, we get off track, we get back on track. We slip up, we make mistakes, get off track, get back on track. It's kind of a cycle. So what was it that made you really want to make this decision to make this change?
Like I said before, I was an athlete, and I consider myself an athlete, but I didn't feel like an athlete. So that was it. I just wanted to feel better, and I didn't. And so that was huge for me. I didn't, I just didn't feel like I was myself because I was out of shape, and mentally too, I wasn't in a great spot. So I needed, I needed to change a lot of things, and the nutrition part was huge to, start off. When we first started, we started slow, worrying about how much we ate. Or how quick I ate and all of that. And I thought to myself, this is insane. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
That's what everybody says. Yeah.
It's amazing. It was, that was the first step, which also was huge too, because, and you and I talked about this when we very first started. I want, every time I tried to get back into shape or get working out or doing whatever, it was this, I went from here to here rather than from here to here, you know, in incremental steps. I was changing everything within a day, and that was just, you just set yourself up to fail. And, you know, so that's why reaching out and, you know, having you coach is just, it's been huge in the sense like, hey, we can do this step by step, and it's not so much you take on all at once. And that was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I'm noticing too, it's like, was there a moment you can recall where you're like, okay, man, I really got to do this? Was there any sort of interaction that really sparked your motivation to make the transformation? I'm trying to think, was there any specific time when you're like, okay, this is it. I'm sick of this. And the reason I ask is I had a moment where I saw a photo of myself. We did a big family portrait, not just my family, but my cousins, my mom and dad, and my sisters and their husbands. And I still thought I was like a fit athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at the photo, I was fat. And I saw the photo, I was like, oh, shit. Okay, I got to change. That was the moment for me. So I'm curious, did you have anything like that?
I mean, there wasn't one. I think there was many that finally, you know, over time it took a little bit. You know, pictures is definitely one where you see yourself like, do I really look like that? And I mean, but you bringing that up, one time I can't remember, kind of wrestling around once Brooks got a little older and wrestling around and kind of like literally feeling out of breath within 5 minutes of wrestling with at the time, who knows how old he was, 3 or 4 year old, and thinking, wow, you know, and then that's when it was, that was the part of the back of my mind, like, I'm going to do something. I needed help, and I didn't realize that. And that's what I got to.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things you mentioned was we started real slow, right? And we did incremental build versus like go from A to Z in a month. It was like, let's go to A to B in a month and then B to C. So what stands out? Which behaviors and which habits did you really, do you remember from the process that we changed?
I mean, number one was just showing up. As far as working out, it was showing up, which was huge. I mean, there was a couple of days I showed up, and you could tell I was struggling, and we would honestly, I think one time we went on a walk, and another time we just went in the sauna and then did a little bit just because I needed it. And I remember getting in my car and thinking like, God dang, that was awesome, because I just needed something that day. You know, some days you need that. And but nutrition wise was definitely the eating slower, because I was a very fast eater. And I still every once in a while catch myself doing that, but a very fast eater. And then just, you know, trying to figure out, hey, what are you eating? And like you said, you're like, I don't care what you're eating. Let's just figure out what it is. And then, so just to not like one day show up and like, hey, you got to do everything like this. It was like, hey, let's just try this one thing. See how it goes. And it was impressive because I tried to eat slower, and you just noticed things. You noticed what you were eating, and it took a lot longer, and it was actually more enjoyable, and it was better, and I didn't feel so crappy. I mean, I could still be eating the same food, but I didn't feel so crappy afterwards because I didn't slam it down in 3 minutes.
That's a big one, dude. A lot of people think they need to eliminate those foods. And there are some foods that cause intolerances and like GI issues. Yeah, you're probably better off not eating those. But if you can still enjoy, right, foods that you like, and you just don't have to eat so much of them. And when you eat them slower, they're actually more satisfying and more satiating than just sprinting through, you know, a plate of wings and a pizza. That was my thing back in the day. Yeah. Awesome. Any other habits that stick out in your mind?
I mean, that and just, or another big one is now is just a real good protein-based breakfast in the morning. It's been huge. I didn't even eat breakfast, and so that's one thing. And I'm amazed that I didn't eat breakfast before, but I didn't. Again, a lot of that I didn't know what to eat because of my dietary restrictions. I thought breakfast, the only options were dairy and wheat, wheat products and gluten products. And so I just honestly tried to skip it, and I was starving by lunch. And so now realizing like, hey, there's a lot of options, and some of them may be different. You may be having just almost, ground turkey for breakfast, but that's what it is. And it's, that's been huge. And I can feel it too when I do have it. And You and I talked about it, but one huge thing is I have a guys weekend I go to every year. And this year I implemented breakfast at the guys weekend. And because I just wanted to make sure that I had a good breakfast for a day of golfing and whatever
other things,
whatever activities were going to happen. So, and that's just a long-term thing that, I never would have done before until I realized, like, hey, I got to start my day off right. And I mean, there is the cliche of breakfast is the most important meal. All of them are important, but this one sets me up for success for the rest of the day.
Well, I think that speaks to something really cool in that you've been able to consistently drop weight and lose weight. And, at no point did you express concern of like, man, I'm starving. This sucks. This is miserable. There's been challenging phases, but you've also been able to like go do social events and not be the weird guy on a diet, right? And come home and be like, I know exactly how to get back on track. I've kind of accounted for this. I have put in a plan to mitigate some of the damage, that even though that's not really what was going to happen. But it's just cool to see that like you are living proof being able to drop 20 pounds while still enjoy beers with the friends, vacations, all these other things. And so those things in the past, I think would have derailed you. You've shared with me a few times, and now you know how to get right back on. You have a plan in place, food prep, got your system, got your routine. So we've talked a little bit about it, but outside of weight loss, obviously, that's what we've been talking on. What other changes, what other results have you noticed?
Just mental health too. I mean, I had the brain fog bad in the sense like it just, everything felt foggy. And I know a lot of it was food intake. And I mean, like I said, I didn't eat breakfast, then I eat a huge lunch. I feel like crap for an hour to an hour and a half after lunch. And then by the time I got home, I'd be hungry and I'd have a snack and then eat whatever dinner we had and a ton of it and go to bed and, repeat. And it just, brain fog it's, my wife Kylie and I talk about it quite a bit is, man, I feel so much sharper and so much better. And just in waking up, just getting out of bed. So it's nice. It feels good.
Yeah. Awesome, man. And that's important too, because it's not like you have zero responsibility, right? You have a lot on your plate. You need high levels of energy. You need good mood. You need good confidence to show up in the areas that are really, really important to you. So if someone was considering hiring me, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to do it. Like I said before too, is I don't know. I just feel like you relate really well and you understand what the goal is and that it's not going to happen tomorrow either. It's just a process, and it's not just an end goal of, hey, you may want to lose this much weight, but we're establishing how I want to live and function for the rest of my life. I want to be able to eat this well and train like this, and this is me. This is part of my life, and I'm doing it. So that's what's been huge, is that it's not just, hey, I showed up and you're my trainer and you helped me bench, a lot of weight. You've taught me a lot of things in that sense. And I'm going to tell a quick story. This is my favorite story with you, is with the group that we had, the very first group that we did that you started. We had the very first day I was there. I think I missed 1 or 2 sessions because I was a little late signing up. But I signed up and showed up. And the very first day we were on the assault bike, which I'd never been on one before. They always kind of scared me. And so I'm on it, and I can still remember like putting my head down and thinking, then I went to the spot of like, damn, this sucks. Why did I do this? And I was talking to myself of, why did I let myself get this fat and this out of shape? And this is going to be a hard road. And, you saw it, and you came up and put your hand on my back and just whispered in my ear and just said, straighten up and look forward. And that's all you had to say, because then I did. And I knew from right there, that was, you and I were, it's what I needed. And I needed somebody like you that was going to be there for my best interest, not yell at me or push me like, hey, pick it up. It was just, you could tell I went to a dark place that I didn't need to be in. And right then you said that, and I was good to go from that point on. I knew I could. Yeah. I was worried about, you're worried about failing in the gym, because I've been there before as far as working out and being healthy and doing all that. And now I'm starting way back way back from where I was, and that was really hard to swallow. And I needed somebody to be like, hey man, this is okay. And that's what that meant to me. Is like, hey, I got your back. It's not going to be that. I mean, it's gonna be hard at times because that's what we're here for, but it's not going to be impossible. And I'm here for your best interest. And that's what I needed.
I remember that moment, man. I remember that moment too. I remember the workout was just a lot of assault bike and some body weight stuff and just getting the heart rate going. And I designed it to see how much, where are these guys at, right? Mentally, fitness wise, where are they at? And I was reading the body language, and I remember that exact moment, man. You, for whatever reason, something was going on in your head. You just kind of shut off. You're like, I can't do this. Everything shifted in your energy.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I'm not letting that shit happen. Not today. No way, man. No way. Yeah, dude, that's really cool. That's really, really cool. Sweet, man. So for y'all listening at home, thank you so much for tuning in. Enrollment for 360 Thrive is open through Saturday. And the way that this works is, if you're interested, you got to let me know, comment here, or really anything on any of my content here on Facebook. Shoot me a direct message. Slots are already filling up. Registration closes Friday. You and I will connect. We'll talk, see if you're a good fit, see if what I do can actually help you and solve your unique circumstances. And ultimately, the goal here is to help you drop body weight, reach your ideal weight, and develop the skills to stay that way in the context of your life for the rest of your life. So I'm going to end the feed here, but Pat, let's hang on and we can chat for a little bit more. Thank you, sir. Later, everybody.